Hello. Today I'm going to walk you through installing Klipper on your 3D printer. My name is Jerry. I got into 3D printing a few months ago. I originally started with one, now I'm up to three, and am in the process of building another. My original 3D printer, the motherboard USB connector broke, so I was looking into a replacement and decided to upgrade to a Big Tree Tech board. In the process of doing all that research, I found out about Klipper. Klipper is a open source, free 3D printer software that is an alternative to Marlin. Using Klipper, you can run your printers faster with better quality, and there's some just quality of life improvements, such as being able to remotely upload a file as opposed to having to load it on a SD card, put it in your printer, and it's just Klipper makes everything a little bit easier. There are a few things that you are going to need in order to run Klipper. Uh, you're going to need a Raspberry Pi. You will need the Raspberry Pi Imager software, the SD card for your Raspberry Pi, SD card adapter to go into your computer. You'll need your printer motherboard. You'll need the SD card and the USB cable. Some printer motherboards can be flashed over USB. Whether it can be or not, you're still going to need a USB cable to connect your printer to your Raspberry Pi. You will need to log into your router so that you can get the IP address of your Raspberry Pi. If you've never done that before, most routers have a sticker on them that has all the information you'll need, the website to the router, the login information, and the password. You will need a file transfer program. I use WinSCP, but you can use FileZilla or any of the other file transfer programs. Also, you're going to need an SSH client so that you can log into the Raspberry Pi. I use PuTTY. You can use TerraTerm or whatever else you're familiar with. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is prep your Octoprint image for the Raspberry Pi. You're going to do that from the Raspberry Pi Imager. Open it up. When it opens, you're going to select Other Specific Purpose OS, Octopi, and Octopi Stable. What this is going to do is reach out to the Octoprint website and download the latest edition. Choose your storage. Um, It'll have your SD card here as mass storage, and then click Write. Depending on your internet speed and your computer speed, the process can take anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes. I went ahead and did that so that we didn't have to sit through it. Once it says process is complete, you're going to need to go to File Explorer and go to your SD card that is in your that you just loaded the Octoprint image to, and you're going to open the file named WPA Supplicant. Right here where it says WPA secured. This is where your Wi-Fi information is going to go. Keep the quotation marks. Put your SSID in here. Again, keep the quotation marks. Put your password in here. You're going to need to take out these 4 hash marks. That's going to enable this in the file itself. Then you're going to want to come down here and select your country. Once that's done, click Save, eject your SD card, put it in your Raspberry Pi, give it a few minutes, 5 minutes or so to get everything loaded up, and then you're going to need to access your router. All router dashboards are a little bit different, but somewhere in there you should see a network map. This will show everything that is connected to your network. What you're looking for is the one that says Octopi. Click on it, or you might not have to click on it, it might just say, but either way, what you need is the IP address. As you can see here, mine is 192.168.1.105. Once you have the IP address of your Raspberry Pi, you're going to open up your SSH software. Like I said, I use PuTTY, but you want to put in that IP address for the host name, keep the port at 22, and then click open. It's going to ask you for the login. The default login is Pi. The default password is Raspberry. Once you are logged into your Raspberry Pi, there's a few things you're going to need to do. What you're going to want to do is type in this command first: sudo apt-get -allow -release info -change. This was not in any of the tutorials that I watched or the documentation that I read, and this will cause your entire build to fail. So go ahead and type that in, and then sudo apt-update. That's going to update all the packages, and then sudo apt-upgrade will upgrade all those packages. Depending on your internet speed and your Raspberry Pi is depending on how long this is going to take. For me, it took about 20 minutes because I'm using a Raspberry Pi Zero, which does not have a lot of compute power. Raspberry Pi 4 would be much quicker. However, I'm using a Raspberry Pi Zero. Once you have everything updated and upgraded, this command here is going to reach out to the GitHub and actually download the Klipper firmware to the Raspberry Pi, or not the firmware, but the program rather. This next command is going to install the Klipper onto the Raspberry Pi. Once that is complete, you're going to want to get into the Klipper directory so that you can tell Klipper what kind of mainboard that you have. You can go to this website here, the GitHub Klipper 3D Klipper tree master config, and what that's going to do is tell you all the information that you need for your board. If you're using an aftermarket board, that's what you're going to find. If you're using a factory board, then just go down and find the printer that you have and click on it, and the information that you're going to use is right here at the top. I am using a Big Tree Tech Octopus board. So as you can see here, this information coincides with what I have here. The microcontroller is an STM Microelectronics. The processor is an STM32F446. We need a 32 kilobyte bootloader with a 12 megahertz crystal. Get that done, press Q, it'll prompt you to save it, and then simply type in make. That's going to compile your firmware and get it ready to go. Once that is complete, you're going to need to go into your file transfer utility. Depending on the file transfer utility, file or program is how this next part's going to go. But you basically need your IP address and your login, which again is Pi and then Raspberry. Once you're into there, you're going to go to your home file folder, your Pi folder, Klipper folder, out folder, and this is the file that you want, is klipper.bin. Copy the klipper.bin file onto the SD card for your printer. Once you have that copied over, you're going to want to rename this file from klipper.bin to firmware.bin. Once that's done, you're going to eject that SD card and put it into your printer. You'll know that your firmware uploaded successfully by using this command here, list device by serial ID. Copy that, go back to your SSH client and put that in. And as you see here, device serial by ID USB Klipper STM32F446. That means that it was successfully installed onto the main board. So now your main board has Klipper. Once you have verified that your main board has the Klipper on it, you're going to go to your Octoprint. The address for that, you can either use octopi.local or you can type in the IP address of the Raspberry Pi. Once you load this up, you'll have a few options. You'll set up your username and your password and the base settings of your printer. Once that's done, you're going to need to go in here to the settings, which is the little wrench icon. Under serial connection, you're going to want to add additional serial ports. You're going to want to type in TMP/printer and then click save. Once you have that done, you're going to come to your serial port, change it to the TMP/printer and click connect. As you can see, it says unable to open config file home pi printer.config. So what you need to do for that problem is go back to your file transfer utility. You need to get to the home folder, the pi folder, and in here you're going to want to add a new file, and you're going to want to name it printer.cfg. Click OK. That will open, and then you're going to have to use this information under the GitHub for the configurations. You just want to copy all of this into that file. Now, as for setting all this up, that is beyond the scope of this tutorial, but the Klipper documentation is really good and it will walk you through how to do that, and that's going to be right here at klipper3d.org. So now you have successfully installed Klipper onto your main board. All you have to do is configure it and then enjoy all the benefits of using Klipper. I hope this tutorial was helpful and that you were successful in your Klipper installation. Alright, thank you very much. Goodbye.